Start, sir.
This call is now being recorded.
A very good evening. Respected dignitaries, dear participants, and honorable guests, myself, Shouradip Odhikari. On behalf of Modok Trainer Academy, a very warm welcome to each one of you. Really, it's indeed my privilege to begin today's enlightening session on the very pertinent and thought provoking theme: decentralization and human rights in the post colonial state. This topic or subject not only carries academic significance but also resonates deeply with the socio political realities of our time. We are truly honored to have with us today our eminent distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Soumen Chakraborty, an academician, researcher, and political analyst. Dr. Chakraborty holds an MA in political science from the University of Calcutta, a PhD in political science from the University of Burdwan, along with a postgraduate diploma in human rights from the Indian Institute of Human Rights, New Delhi. Presently, he serves as a state-aided college teacher in the Department of Political Science at Sadhon Chandra Mahavidyalaya. Throughout his career, Dr. Chakraborty has contributed extensively to the field of political science, refugee studies, and human rights. His notable works include বহু স্বরে উদ্বাস্তু সত্তায় বাঙালি, Rights for the Rightlessness, Question of the Rohingya Refugee, অধিকারের নতুন দিগন্তে মানবাধিকার, among a lot of others. His research and writings have opened new perspectives on issues of displacement, refugees, political culture, and the evolving discourse on human rights. Apart from his scholarly publications, he has also presented papers at several national and international conferences and frequently appears in the media as a political analyst. His insights always reflect clarity of thought and a deep concern for justice, equality, and human dignity. We are really confident that today's session will provide us with profound knowledge, fresh perspectives, and meaningful discussion on decentralization and the challenges of human rights in post colonial states. So, without any further delay, let us all extend our warmest welcome to respected Dr. Soumen Chakraborty with a big round of applause. Sir, please start your today's valuable lecture. Thank you.
First of all, we thank this institute to privilege me to share my new ideas and research material, not only in new but the conceptual framework is truly academic. So we are not the delay but starting my topic already being posted. So we start the topic, and first of all we present the approaches to the rural development. In several approaches were made to bring about rural development in India in the successive 5 years plans in, in tone of the changing policies and priorities of the government of India. When the process of planning was launched in 1951, after the country attained independence, the policymakers were largely guided by the Gandhian ideology concerning rural reconstruction that centered around the principles of voluntary effort, self help, cooperation, and Gram Swaraj. The pioneering experiment in rural reconstruction undertaken in the different parts of the country during the pre-independence era also rested on these principles. Just a moment. The government was naturally in the focus of rural development because over the 90% of the country's population was residing in the rural areas. The attempt is made here to critically review the important approaches to the rural development during the planning era, such as the broad front approach, sectorial approach, area approach, target group approach, and integrated or the holistic approach. Beside this, the new approaches come up in the era of globalization, the approach being based on the human rights in international phenomena. So, we are first of all try to understand the topic made in the what do you mean by the decentralization, or what are the relation between the decentralization and human rights perspective, and what are the ability to concern human rights in the development in rural sector or the urban sector, what the capacity building program in the approach of human rights much more stronger than the previous. So we are start. First of all, we denote the what do you mean by decentralization. Over the past 3 decades, decentralization defined as the transfer of political power to citizen and their elected representatives at the lower levels of the government has been attained by the developed and developing countries. Decentralization has been touched as the means of shifting power away from inefficient, corrupt, and the central states towards more accountable local government and for encouraging the deepening of democracy and the building of village community. It has also been a way of addressing the inefficiencies of central state in reducing poverty by enabling better local targeting and delivery of social services. Scholars from different ideological backgrounds, from neoliberal economists to civil society organizers, have viewed the increased power given to local government through decentralization as holding great promise for challenging the efficiency of the government. Advocate of decentralization argue that local governments would help democracy take root and be more effective at improving the well being of their citizens. Yet, critics counted or the counter argument that decentralization might lead to between the localities, mainly that lack of local capacity among illiterate and poor population groups might lead to local elite capture of the power public resources and an inability to implement central government programs. 3 decades into the political decentralization of power, it is appropriate to ask whether the shift towards local government has actually mattered an average citizen's life. While the 20th century saw large gain of living standards in some countries, poverty and other indicators of social well-being continue to remain poor in much of the developing world. Some countries, such as South Korea, which were considered developing countries 50 years ago, are now in the income and middle income uh, income and low poverty rates. Others like India have seen high income economic growth rate over the last few decades. But these growth rate have not trickled down enough to pull over 30 300 million poor people out of poverty. Many researcher Many researcher findings show that a state's history of decentralization, political competition, and social mobilization are key ingredients to in determining the ability of village governments to depend democracy and have an impact their citizens well-being. Different combinations of these key indicators have led to verifying degrees of democratic rooting and efficiency of local government in implementing decentralization in India. In India, the extension of democratic politics and electoral participation to village government in 1993, the scope and the depth of the Indian democracy, village level democratic structure rooted and flourished in the some states of the country, engaging women and lower caste, delivering social services and anti-poverty program to those in needs and contributing to the improved well-being of their constituents. In other Indian states, however, the very some local government structure is only nominally democratic in the state. Socio-economic or political elites capture services indeed indeed for the civil society is unable to demand accountability from their local government. Decentralization and community driven management acquire special importance in the context of the ongoing process of globalization and associated economic reform. While the process of globalization acts in the ways in which the market acquire supremacy to the determinant of people who lost control over their livelihood pattern as well as other choices. The process of decentralization could act as a counter force, enabling people to acquire control over decisions that influence their livelihood in, in some critical areas. By helping fight corruption, improve transparency and accountability in governance, strengthen judicial system and modernize financial sector. The banking contributes the bank contributes to building environment in which people are better able to pursue a broader range of human rights. Thus, the focus of good governance shifted from economic development and better management of resources to an equal emphasis on elements of accountability, transparency, and efficiency, ensuring an environment in which people could enjoy their rights. The good governance now clearly includes social and political development as well. The public bodies are expected to transfer and benefit of development to the masses. The various contents of the concept of good governance, like accountability, transparency, responsiveness, require the governance to be decentralized and linked to the people's rights. The term decentralization implies devaluation of power, function, and finances. In large countries like India, with cultural plurality and economic disparity, territorial decentralization can address variability element of regions and different culture ethnic aspirations. Decentralization not only leads to devaluation of power and responsibilities, but it also encourages and facilitates people involved in decision making in day to day routine matters which are difficult to be deliberated at the national level. The concept of participatory democracy has undergone change. Traditionally, it meant only exercise the right to vote, but the growing consciousness regarding the role of civil society and change perception of people being the active agent of development has made decentralization, development, and good governance complementary to each other. Talking, talking in the case of India, initially decentralization meant the division of power between the center and the states or federating units. Though the constitution made the provision for local self-government also, but it was not given the importance which was due which was due. But over the period of time, it was realized the people at the grassroots level needed to be involved in the governance so that they should be able to enjoy the benefit of development. This realization led to the passage of the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992. Decentralization is necessary not only for participatory democracy but also make the system accountable, transparent, responsive, and efficient. All these keywords are highly interrelated and interdependent, and democ- clear-cut line of demarcation is difficult to be drawn while defining them. However, one can see them in the broader framework of rule of law, which has always been central to any concept of good governance. While traditionally it means strict adherence of legal procedure and rules, today it stands as a flexible term, including accountability, financial accountability, corruption free society, transparency, and free flow of information, etc. Rule of law, first and foremost, means supremacy of law and not the will of any individual. A country is to be governed in accordance with some rules and laws, and not as per the priority of an individual or a group of individuals. Principle of supremacy of law implies the political bodies are subordinate to both national as well as international law and obligations. Secondly, rule of law as a safeguard against arbitrariness and abuse of power, bringing an element of accountability in the behavior of public officials. The term accountability stands for the responsible attitudes. It means those who are power should function in accordance with the law of the land and fulfill their legal responsibilities. In India, the accountability is theoretical. For example, the government is responsible to the legislature and legislator to none. Moreover, the government is largely drawn out of legislature. Therefore, in the absence of clear separation of power, what exists is a fake accountability. Even at the local level, once appointed for 5 years, Pradhan is not accountable to anyone but to Gram Sabha. Pradhan accountability, Pradhan's accountability will depend upon the strength and awareness of Gram Sabha. Even during colonial period, there exist accountability in the conventional sense. The British officials strictly followed the rules and legal procedure made by British government and were accountable to their colonial masters and not to the natives. Rule of law, in the terms of a state's commitment to implementing various human rights of people under the national and international law, was missing during the colonial period. Today, the state and its agencies play a role not only in maintaining the law and order but also in development functions. Accountability then includes responsiveness and efficiency in order to achieve and desire objective. While responsiveness means concern of public officials towards the needs and aspiration of people. Efficiency refers to the refers to their capability to accomplish the development targets. How decentralization of governance can result into better management of resources and efficient administration of policies and program at the grassroots level is well in the states like Kerala and in the at least 2 decades in West Bengal, starting from the 70s. In the state of Kerala, decentralization has brought about involvement of people in both governance as well as development function. In Kerala, system of local self institution, the development plan are developed through open assemblies at the village level known for Gram Sabha and are sent to higher authorities only for final approval. The needs and priorities of people are openly debated at the Gram Sabha, and 40% of the district development budget is assigned to the plans of developed by the Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha also reviews the expenditure and progress made in the various projects of previous year. The process being lots of accountability, more openly and directly to people, and transparency level, little scope of misuse of fund. Also, the formation of Gram Sabha is mandatory district function. In the state of West Bengal, where the where system of village constituencies or Gram Sangsad has been introduced, decentralization has resulted in participatory democracy. Development plans at the village level are prepared through open assemblies that participate in comprehensive planning, monitoring and review implementation on regular basis. But in the various sources and research are made it clear that all are the maximum cases theoretical understanding, but in the practice all are irregularities take place in West Bengal. The decision making at the level has been given legal protection. If there are lapses in implementation or Gram Sangsad decision, then all the expenditure of the next year of local level are illegally or misused for the sake of people interest. The local self-governing institutions are functioning more as the strengthened democracy. They are not truly representative and therefore not responsive, transparent, and accountable. So the democracy is not strengthening in the root level. There is hardly any participation of the local people in the decision making and plan formulation, etc. in West Bengal. The official of the local bodies act as agent of state and district administration and political leader. Consequently, a large number of mega schemes for the development of the people, like food for work, intensive agriculture development program, etc., in recent years, designed in the national level, could not integrate local people with them and largely failed to deliver goods. Rampant corruption was another reason for the failure of this project. Again, to quote the late Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, of the 100 rupee for agricultural development sanctioned by Delhi, only 15 rupee reach in the indeed recipient. If good governance has to be seen within the broader framework of rule of law, sorry, then phenomena like corruption are not only against the basic principle of rule of law, but it also implies an abuse of power that manifests itself in a number of ways like barely nepotism, distortion of organizational expenditure. According to a number of studies, the level of corruption is alarming in India, particularly in the states of Assam, Bihar, Jammu Kashmir, UP, Madhya Pradesh, and West Bengal. The Indian Corruption Study 2007, brought out by Transparency International India and Center of Media Studies, report opened that the one-third of below poverty line household in India paid rupees 800 8,830 to government official, to various public services, from police to PDS, populist development scheme like NREG, National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, suffered from massive corruption. It was found that 14% of the poor households either paid a or used contract mainly political to get benefit of NREG scheme. Our late Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi observed the attitude of civil servant towards the common people is rightly things. He observed the experience of the vast majority of our people at the grassroots has been that at the interface between the people and administration, the administration is unresponsive, as inefficient, unsympathetic, often unsympathetic, and sometimes even cruel to those whom they are meant to serve. Decentralization. Why I talking about the human rights approach? Or naturally question arise, what are the new in human rights approach? So I just illustrate the ideas of human rights approach denotes decentralization in India, particularly through Panchayati Raj institution, aims to empower local communities and enhance human rights by bringing governance closer to the people. While decentralization offers potential for improved service delivery and greater participation, it also presents challenges in the terms of ensuring effective implementation and preventing the dilution of state responsibility for human rights. Key aspect of decentralization and human rights in India. The 73rd and 74th Amendments to the Indian Constitution establish a three-tier system of Panchayati Raj at the village, block, and district level, aiming to develop power and resources to the local government. Democratic decentralization. These involve empowering local communities to participate in decision-making process, plan for economic development, and monitor the implementation of developmental works. Potential benefit. Decentralization can lead to improved service delivery in sector like health and education, increased accountability of local officials, and greater responsiveness to local needs. Challenges and concern in this perspective, decentralization can also lead to implementation across states, potential for corruption and misuse of funds, and challenges in ensuring the participation of marginalized groups. Despite decentralization, the state government remains ultimately responsible for upholding human rights and ensuring the effective implementation of laws and policies at the all levels. Decentralization should be designed and implemented in the way that promotes and protect human rights, including the rights of women, children, and marginalized groups. Lots of studies have shown that decentralization has led to improved access to healthcare service in some areas, while others have highlighted the need for greater financial autonomy for the Panchayati Raj. In essence, the decentralization in India presents both opportunities and challenges in the context of human rights. While it can empower local communities and improve governance, it is crucial to ensure that it is implemented effectively and responsibly to protect human rights and promote equitable development. So, conclude my observation in new perspective of decentralized process on the uh, light of human rights perspective, and I think more question arise in this new perspective come up in the policy making body of Indian uh, in state or central level. I think the new policies, human rights in the case of decentralization mainly protect the rights of the individual. This is primary primary level. The marginal people or marginal ethnicity or the identity politics also protect in this paradigm. So human rights perspective are broader aspect than previous any kind of perspective already experiment in India in last 50 or 4 decades of decentralization process. To conclude my lecture, I think question arise.